Hey babes, a note before we begin. This month's episode of Ephemera is going to contain description of sexual assault, a court case against serial abusers of women, a brief mention of suicide, and discussions of doxing and revenge porn. If that's not what you're looking for today, you should stop listening now.
Hey, you lied to me and they lied to me.
A woman writes in a text message.
It's on a website now and my whole town back home knows. This ruined my life.
The woman sending that text is identifiable only as Jane Doe 15, one of 22 women out of possibly hundreds of victims, suing a company called Girls Do Porn. Girls Do Porn and its sister site, Girls Do Toys, has made $17 million in profit off of the deliberate and especially cruel exploitation of young women, far beyond what might be normal or typical in the porn industry. After 3 years of proceedings and stalling tactics, the victims finally had their day in court. I'm Stephanie B., and this is Ephemera. In San Diego, California, a man named Michael Pratt organized a criminal enterprise that exploited vulnerable young women. This story is about a porn website and financial exploitation of vulnerable young women, but it's important that we understand it as a criminal story about a criminal enterprise, run by the lowest of the low, rather than just another porno studio. Wherever you may stand on the benefits and evils of pornography, Michael Pratt and his cronies did something that doesn't quite resemble other amateur-centric porno companies. I'm not really interested in talking about the business ethics of pornography because this episode is about the unethical business of exploitation. Pratt ran a string of companies under the umbrella of his site Girls Do Porn, which advertised to its viewers as only shooting with women who'd never appeared in porn before. There's a lot of cash-strapped college students, single moms, and so on. In one video that went viral during a pre-taped interview segment, a young woman shows off her Arizona State University student card. A viral news article spread later, saying that she'd lost her ASU scholarship because of the video, but it was a lie invented by Michael Pratt as viral advertising for his website. Pratt was a prolific liar, actually. All of the women who shot videos for him were told that the videos would never make their way online, that they were to be sold on DVD in Australia or were for a private collector in New Zealand. The conspirators took pains to only lie over the phone, to avoid creating a paper trail. But the videos were always intended to go online, first on Girls Do Porn and then later as teaser clips on Girls Do Porn's channels on popular tube sites. Added together, GDP videos on the tube sites ranked up well over 1 billion views. They made $17 million in sales. The conspirators did a lot to assuage these victims' fears of stigma, of the video getting back to people they knew. Women who were on the fence would be given the contact information of another woman who'd previously shot for GDP. Sometimes these really were women who'd just recently shot for the site, before their videos went online and their lives were ruined. Sometimes they'd be given the phone numbers of more co-conspirators, women who would lie to them and tell them that everything went fine, nobody found out. These liars were paid on a sliding scale by Pratt out of his own PayPal account. Pratt would assign the victims a letter grade from A to D, and the women on the phone would be paid anywhere from $200 for talking an A into it to as low as $50 for a D. Just horrid stuff, but we're far from done here. Sanford Heisler Sharp LLC, who represented some of the plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit against GDP, explained to the news that
after Pratt assigned a grade, He often reduced the payment originally promised before the plaintiff flew to San Diego. As a former employee testified, the prices quoted to the prospective victims were highballed, meaning a larger figure was quoted to get them on the plane. If the plaintiffs balked at the change in payment terms, defendants applied pressure, telling the women that if they refused to go through with the video, the plaintiffs would have to reimburse defendants for the cost of the flight to San Diego and the hotel room and find their own way home. Defendants also offered plaintiffs marijuana and alcohol, knowing many of them were underage, in an effort to lower their faculties. Having flown across the country, alone in a hotel room with at least 2 men who controlled their return flight, plaintiffs felt they had no choice but to accept the lower figure.
While a number of civil cases were being combined into this class action suit, which we'll get back to in a moment, the FBI were assembling a parallel criminal case against the conspirators. Here's a segment from a very long document of 22 different Jane Doe victim testimonies. Again, I'll extend a content warning for rape here. This section details a Jane Doe, identified here as Adult Female 1, testifying as to how the conspiracy's male talent, Garcia, raped her before and during filming.
After emailing with and speaking to Jonathan on the phone, a member of the conspiracy booked Adult Female 1 a one-way plane ticket and she flew to San Diego. When she arrived, Garcia picked her up at the airport and took her to a hotel. Garcia said that he needed to take photos of AF1 for his boss and that AF1 needed to be naked in the photos. AF1 reluctantly complied. Garcia then took several photos with his cell phone and said that he sent them to his boss.
Hi, listeners. We're just going to skip a paragraph here where the victim describes her rape. All the gory details and more are out there for you true crime sickos in the notes, anyway.
As Garcia left, he told AF1 not to leave the hotel room. Before the filming began, AF1 requested Garcia's STD results. Garcia refused, causing AF1 to become emotionally distraught, thinking of how he had raped her the night before. The more AF1 requested to see his STD results, Garcia became nastier and made up excuses as to why he didn't have it. AF1 then had sex with Garcia on film, as directed by Garcia and Wolf, which was frequently painful because Garcia was aggressive and indifferent.
I'm sorry to make you listen to that, but I read all of the testimonies, and I want you, the listeners, to understand just how little these conspirators respected any of the women they abused. And AF1 is hardly alone. The FBI documents, which I've linked in the show notes, only profile 5 victim stories out of many. The civil lawsuit involves 22 Jane Does who were able to step forward. All of the lawyers involved say that at least 100 more women were victimized. I don't know how many videos the conspirators filmed, how many women they raped, but there's a consistent pattern in the victim testimonies, and I would not be surprised to find that even 100 more victims is an incomplete number. The conspirators ran their businesses in a way designed to obfuscate and confuse their identities and practices. Per the FBI.
Although defendants use several entities to run the 3 subscription websites, they are inextricably linked as a single operation run by a handful of people out of the same office space in downtown San Diego, California, operated by the same credit card processing companies and utilizing the same sham offshore entities set up by the infamous GT Group Limited, which has laundered billions of dollars for nefarious business operations such as the Sinaloa cartel and Ukrainian gun runners.
The conspirators often used fake names and disposable phones to conduct business. The legal documents each woman has to sign, one Jane Doe said that they were 2 inches thick, never mention girls do porn or the internet, instead identifying the conspirators as belonging to one of their shell companies. If a woman tries to read the contract, she is yelled at that there isn't enough time, with her flight back already booked for that evening, and told again that she has nothing to worry about. Nothing will go online. Per James J. O'Brien, representing several plaintiffs.
The first time they ever see the contract is in this litigation.
But, of course, the videos do go online. There are no DVDs, no wealthy patrons in Australia. And the way that these videos go online is just as despicable and violent as anything I've said so far. A month or 2 after the video has been shot, with the young woman finally gaining some distance from this ordeal, she is re-victimized when the videos go online. The conspirators publish the full videos on their websites, and flood tube sites with a number of free 5-minute clips from the full videos. Each clip has a link to buy the full video on the conspiracy's website. Once the clips go onto the tube sites, the conspiracy's MO is to send links to everyone the victims know on social media. They're capitalizing on anonymity and personal connections to sell their videos to new audiences, but it also serves, deliberately it seems, to destroy the relationships these women have with their friends, family, and colleagues. Girls Do Porn has a devoted following of stalker fans who dox the models within hours, adding their full names to meticulous lists, ordered by episode number, which has the effect of making the videos show up on the first page of Google results for each victim's name. I usually try to avoid libel, but I think that this is what the conspirators really enjoy, the act of driving these young women into depression and, in several cases, suicide. One of the fan forums for doxing these women, by the way, had 50,000 registered users. In their reporting on this story, pretty good reporting I might add, Vice Media spoke with one of the victims, who was willing to be identified only as Monica. Monica's story is relevant to the broader cases because the photos she had shared only with the men behind girlsdoporn.com and then deleted made their way onto a site called Porn WikiLeaks. Porn WikiLeaks basically existed just to dox women in porn. I think it existed as early as 2010 or 2011, but in 2015, it was bought by one of the conspiracy's companies and became one of the main repositories of the doxed identities, phone numbers, and doxed family members of the women who were victimized by Girls Do Porn. There's a paper trail between one of Pratt's companies and the sale of Porn WikiLeaks, but the photos from Monica conclusively prove that the conspiracy ran and regularly contributed to the Porn WikiLeaks site. By 2016, the Porn WikiLeaks site included hyperlinks to Girls Do Porn URLs and videos as part of its main content. Later, a meme went around juxtaposing a photo from Monica's high school yearbook with a screenshot of the ending of the video. "Then and now," reads the caption. It's the kind of retaliatory threat the conspiracy was fond of. At one point, when the father of a victim angrily contacted one of the conspirators, their lawyer replied to him with a cease and desist letter and attached nude photos of the man's daughter. In August 2019, by the way, as the civil case against the conspiracy was picking up again, there was this whole thing where Pratt declared bankruptcy in an attempt to delay the trial, but it resumed sooner than he expected. The porn company Bang Bros bought Porn WikiLeaks, deleted 300,000 posts from its forum, and then set the hard drives that had stored the info on fire. There's a video of the hard drives burning, which I suppose is pretty cathartic if the site has victimized you. The conspirators have finally been charged with sex trafficking and criminal conspiracy. But the main guy behind Girls Do Porn, Michael Pratt, fled the United States before he could be charged. He's still a free man, presumably hiding in his native New Zealand. I'd like to pivot now from this specific case, which I really don't want to keep researching, into a broader discussion of doxing and pornography. Bang Bros seems to speak for the legitimate porn industry by purchasing and then destroying Porn WikiLeaks, but the sheer number of stalker fans on both the Girls Do Porn forum and Porn WikiLeaks, as well as elsewhere, speaks to a deeper and more persistent problem. I was going to quote an example post on the Porn WikiLeaks forum for you, but the few dozen I saw were actually all so horrid that I'm unwilling to reproduce them here. Suffice it to say that they were uniformly cruel and vile, in every way the internet is good at. And that's a lot of ways. Some of the people doxing porn actresses rely on AI tools, like facial recognition neural networks. In 2016, 3 days after a Russian programmer invented an app called FindFace, trolls on Divac, which is Russia's equivalent of 8chan, used it to identify hundreds, if not thousands, of Russian porn actresses and prostitutes with their real names and links to their VK profiles. VK, formerly VKontact, is Russia's big social networking site. Unlike Facebook, it has a powerful user search API publicly available, which is how Find Face works. In 2019, a Germany-based Chinese programmer claimed to have trained a neural net to identify over 100,000 adult actors, Chinese ones, intending to make a website where users could surreptitiously upload a photo of their girlfriend to make sure she'd never done porn. It was pure. In both cases, women's agency and privacy is stripped away by moral crusaders, armed with 21st century weaponry. In 2017, Pornhub announced that they had contracted out facial recognition AI to a third-party contractor with some pretty big promises, per Vice's Samantha Cole.
The company says it'll get to the point where the computer vision can discern hair color, sex position, and fetish.
If you look now, most of the big tube sites have similar software running behind the scenes, as well as another separate AI working to identify copyrighted content. The Pornhub one works pretty well. It's a boon for fans of a certain performer, or fetishists, but it has disastrous implications for victims of revenge porn, or sex workers whose videos may have been uploaded to tube sites without their consent. Internet and technology lawyer Neil Brown told Samantha Cole,
"Imagine if a video of you had been uploaded by a former partner, for example, without your permission, and, as a result of the application of AI to a site's content library, it not only grouped together all videos involving you, but included your name, Facebook, or Twitter profile, and so on."
Some people are trying to use facial recognition to fight back against revenge porn. There's an app called Face Pinpoint, which uses a neural net and facial recognition tech to help victims of revenge porn find all the places online where their images have been posted, so they can begin the process of getting them taken down. Face Pinpoint only looks at and stores facial recognition data, no nudes, no images, and encrypts all its info. But Archie Agarwal, CEO of cybersec firm Threat Modeler, says that services like this don't automate the really hard part of recovering from revenge porn.
In my opinion, this type of service may not be worth using because it is unclear how accurate it will be, and in the end, it's not finding the images that is the problem, it's getting the sites to take them down.
Carrie Goldberg, a Brooklyn-based lawyer at C.A. Goldberg PLLC, who specializes in sexual privacy violations, has worked a lot of revenge porn cases.
Technology can be used for evil,
she says.
This is a prime example.
She got out at a bonfire party, never had a drink before, but he held it to her lips as she took her first sip, and before she knew it, she had 3 more. She always heard that a girl's first time is a memory she'll never forget. She found out the hard way about love when she saw those pictures on the internet. Yeah, he was a quarterback, smiling her imaginary.
If you or someone you know has been the victim of revenge porn, the Badass Army is there for you. And if you've been doxxed, Crash Override has your back. I've included links to both organizations in the show notes. When I was being threatened by MRAs years and years ago, I wish something like Crash Override had existed. They have an automated program that helps you lock down your social media and go dark online. It's one of the few cases where technology is helping victims rather than stalkers. Audio engineering for Ephemera is provided by the generous and wonderful Miguel Tani. This month, I recorded an explainer-type mini-episode on Huawei and the 5G wars. If you like Ephemera and want it to thrive, consider supporting the show on Patreon. Patronage comes with a few hours of bonus content, and the right to perform a voice for the show. There's more details in the show notes. This month, I'm sending police officer emoji out to Aiden D., Al O., Expropriated Valor, Drew K., Alice, Tanky Factory, Kevin W., Brady B., Sam K., Discourse Stew, Al O, and Meredith H. My sincere thanks to all of my patrons. Without you, I wouldn't be able to do the amount of research that makes Ephemera as good as it is. And, of course, my thanks to you for listening. Doe 15 hadn't mentioned the gig to her boyfriend, who she had been only casually seeing at the time of the shoot. But once it went public, she told him immediately.
It was terrible.
Doe 15 recalled in court.
I just knew I wanted him to hear it from me instead of someone else. And as soon as I told him, I tried to explain, and he just said that he didn't want to see me. He didn't want to talk to me, and he didn't think I was that type of person. He gets upset by it, and it causes strain between us because he says that since it came online, that I am just not the same person. My personality has changed, and there's times when he said I'm just too depressed and he can't be around it. Just stuff like that.